Elliotte Friedman drops a truth bomb on the Ian Clark mystery, indicating that all is not fine in paradise as there could be other interested parties in the veteran's talents. And Kevin Lankinen is ready to go as the goalie battle officially begins in Vancouver. We're going to be breaking down all of that in this episode of Canucks Digest, but first make sure to hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon so you don't miss any and all updates surrounding the Canucks as we head through the preseason. And with that, let's hop into the first topic of the day, which is Friedman drops truth bomb. And on the 32 Thoughts podcast, he was asked about the Ian Clark mystery, saga, dilemma, situation, and whatever you want to call it. He said, that's one that's starting to pick up a little bit of noise. I think that it's known that Clark may move on with the Canucks' blessing. I think they're not going to stand in the way if an opportunity opens up. New Jersey already has a goaltending department, and he knows Jacob Markstrom well. I think people who follow that situation much closer than I have, they have really felt that it was likely that after it was decided that Clark couldn't go on the ice every day this season for his own health because of injuries he suffered, that maybe this marriage wouldn't continue, and I'm curious to see where it's going to go. He elaborated even further, going that even though it looks like the relationship between Clark and the Canucks has kind of turned in a bad direction, he's really a sharp guy who really knows goaltending, and he really played a huge role in Thatcher Demko getting to who he is and where he is. So I think teams would definitely value that kind of institutional knowledge. And while we don't know exactly what the status of the relationship is, this is big news as far as there's other teams interested. He knows Jacob Markstrom, and as well as indicating that clearly all is not fine with Vancouver Canucks and Ian Clark. Yes, Allvin said it was because of injuries, and Elliotte said that as well. We're going to get into what Allvin said back in August in a second. But looking at this, it seems like the Canucks are just trying to have a very amicable divorce, it would seem, from their marriage with Ian Clark and having him move on, because if he isn't on the ice every day, what purpose can he serve, especially when looking at his new duties? When you look at his other duties, the Canucks shifted Clark's duties around after he informed him he couldn't go on the ice as much anymore. Marco Terenius, Clark's protege and Abbotsford's goaltending coach for the past 2 seasons, was promoted to the role of NHL goaltending coach, while the club shifted Clark into a scouting and development role. And as well as Patrik Allvin speaking on the reassignment, with Clarkie wanting something different at the hockey club, we were extremely fortunate to have Marco in the system and ready to take on the responsibility of becoming our new goaltending coach in Vancouver. Unfortunately, Ian can no longer go on the ice regularly to do the things that have made him successful, but this new role will fit his expertise, and having Clarkie going out to find and develop talent will be a big asset to the organization. And yes, the scouting will be a big element that we're going to touch on in a second here. But the thing is, it's not saying that he didn't have too many injuries that he couldn't go on the ice anymore. But what it is kind of indicating is that maybe it was a little bit of smoke and mirrors, and maybe that was only half the truth. That maybe the reassignment was also an indication of them wanting to move on from Clarkie, moving Marco up, even though he is Clarkie's protege, but making sure that the replacement is in place rather than having him dwindle down and having their goaltending suffer as a result of it. So wanting that fresh blood in there makes sense from that standpoint, wanting to make sure that nothing wears thin and not having to jump in after a potential disastrous season or postseason where Clarkie just has one bad season. You want him to go out on top instead of on his back, and I think the Canucks might have put him in a situation to do that. And when he was named the director of goaltending 3 seasons ago, he was responsible for the department as a whole. This included scouting at both the pro and amateur levels, hiring, firing his staff, and more. Essentially, if there was anything to do with the goaltending in the Canucks organization, Clark had a hand in it. His new role this year meant that wasn't the case, though, and many believe that Clark wanted to keep his title of director even if he wasn't going day-to-day on the ice anymore. Even before officially getting the title of director in 2021-2022, Clark was largely responsible for choosing who the Canucks targeted on both the pro and amateur side. Just like he was in Columbus before joining the Canucks, it was Clark who scouted the team and then clamored for the Canucks to draft Artur Shilovs in 2019, for example. So this is really big as far as that goes, because he was already in the scouting department. So why would you have to reassign him to just that specifically when he was already doing those things and more before he was even given the goaltending director position? So having Marco put in there, it does make it a little bit contradictory as far as what Allvin was saying, and almost kind of supports what Elliotte was saying as far as the relationship maybe going bad, because Clarkie's involvement was already at that level. Now it's just being limited to scouting when he was involved in so many other things that weren't necessarily on the ice. So for him to get booted from that despite not being able to go on the ice, that's only one element of the many elements of the job that he had. And Clark has been with the Vancouver Canucks for a total of 12 years over 2 separate stints, and even earned the promotion at the end of the 2023-24 campaign being named director of goaltending. The Vancouver native has been instrumental in developing a number of goaltenders to reach their potential, including the aforementioned Jacob Markstrom, Roberto Luongo, and Thatcher Demko. If he happens to leave and head to New Jersey, it'll be big news for the organization as a whole, but also some of the younger guys, including Nico Dawes and Tyler Brennan, as far as their development in New Jersey. So if the Canucks do lose him, that's going to be losing a very valuable asset to this team and to the development of some amazing goalies. Him clamoring for Artur Shilovs, yes, he could still be in that position with Vancouver, but if he's able to do that with New Jersey and still be director of goaltending despite not going on the ice, he'd be a fool not to go and take that. So if Allvin wants to do some damage control, maybe it would be best to let Clarkie have a bit more involvement aside from being on the ice, making sure that he's working with Marco instead of just having them just be taking over the new guard and the old guard, rather just have a little bit of a tandem as a nice transition period rather than a sudden change right off the bat like that to start the season. But what do you guys think about the comments? What do you think about what Allvin said back in August versus what Elliotte is saying now? We'd love to hear what you guys have to say, but that's going to lead us into our second topic of the day, which is the goalie battle is on. And we see here in a tweet from Canucks Insider at post-practice media yesterday, Tocchet confirms that Kevin Lankinen is going to play tomorrow, which is tonight, against the Seattle Kraken, and JT Miller will play during the preseason. And when asked about if he's ready to go, Lankinen said, "I'm ready to go. I've been preparing all summer, working out, doing conditioning. I feel better than ever, so I am good to go." So Kevin Lankinen is ready to go into this season. He is prepared for the potential goalie competition that's going to be between him and Artur Shilovs. We know that Shilovs wants to play this season in the NHL, and he's determined to do that. He made a statement with that in that first preseason game against the Kraken. Yes, we know it's only the preseason. Yes, it's a little early to say that, but in a case with the Vancouver Canucks where we don't have a definitive 1A goalie heading into this season because our number one guy is still hurt, this is opening the door for a competition within the Canucks organization that within this goalie department, it's also crazy to think that Ian Clark is not here for that when that's going to be instrumental. You have a new director of goaltending coming in while there's going to be this goaltending competition going on. But as far as Lankinen is concerned, he's not worried about that. He's just staying focused, and it's going to be interesting to see what he does against the Kraken on Friday night. It's going to be awesome to watch. Can't wait to see what the game brings. We're going to be bringing you guys all the post-game reactions and all the stories and all the headlines following that game. But what do you guys think as far as Kevin Lankinen and the Vancouver Canucks and this goalie competition? Do you think it's Artur Shilov's position to lose, or do you think it's his to keep and the Artie party is just going to rage on? Love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments. But that's going to take us into our third topic, which is everyone's favorite topic, and that is comment of the day. And we see here in a comment from D Darkness saying, "You need good goaltending, good D, and depth to win the cup." And I think we got all three, not to mention special teams as well. That's something that we've always said on the show, but all three of those things are something that we have said are the major keys to winning the Stanley Cup. We know that would led to Tampa Bay's big little mini dynasty in the late 2010s, where Vasilevsky was just a phenomenal goalie in the playoffs and helped them get to victory. So we have that with Thatcher Demko and Artur Shilovs. Good, we got that settled. Good defense. We got Quinn Hughes, Filip Hronek, Vinny Diarnay, Derek Forbert, Carson Soucy. These guys are going to be problems for guys, and we also have physical guys in the wing, and that leads to the depth situation as well. We're not just one of these teams that's just a top six and nothing else. We're going to make sure that we have 3-4 lines deep of depth that are going to make sure that they can put up production no matter what line is on the ice, and you're not having to rely on your top guys or your core four like some other teams like maybe Toronto or Edmonton do, where their other guys don't step up to the plate as much. We want to be one of those teams where our third and fourth line guys are stepping up to the plate and putting up almost as much points as the second guys and making a case for why they should be a number one line guy on any other team that isn't the Canucks and just fitting in with this Canucks organization well. But what do you guys think about the Canucks heading into this end of this preseason as we transition to the regular season? Would love to hear what you guys have to say. But that's going to do it for this episode of Canucks Digest. I've been your host, Griffin. Take care.